Greer is the owner I'm talking about, lives in a house on the lot right here. She also owns this lot, and she would like to access that lot from Forest Hill, going up into this shaded area here, which happens to contain a driveway that serves the Bayou property. So I've drawn in here to show you. The orange shaded area was approved by the planning board to connect Woodland Heights and Forest Hill several years ago. It never happened because there were protests made from people who lived on both streets. They didn't want to see through traffic there, so the planning board agreed to allow turnarounds at each end, and that's where it is now. There's a turnaround at the top of this area and a turnaround at the top of Forest Hill. This lot 50 is one of the subdivision lots, and I issued a permit for them to build a house there. Dwayne Neno, the public works director at the time, issued an entrance permit from Forest Hill to get to that property. The property at the time wasn't owned by the town, it was owned by the developer, Buck Estates. So when I was asked the question, can I use this driveway to get to my lot, I had to get some legal help. I wasn't quite sure how to deal with that because when the town accepted ownership of that strip of land from Buck Estates with the condition that it would not be a public way, it would not be a public easement until such time the developer built the road to connect them. And the developer is no longer in business, so.
I got one question. You said that, but that was Buck Sports, so it was Buck Sports agreed, they put in that the developer had to do it?
That's
or was
correct.
it the developer? Okay.
That was a condition of the town council to accept the conveyance of that property.
Okay.
So because it's not a public easement, not a public way, the public doesn't have the right to pass over it. Owners of lots in the Buck Estates subdivision, however, do. They have a private easement. And so the Bayous are exercising that private easement. Lot 43, however, is not a lot in the Buck Estates subdivision. So there's no automatic right for the owner of that lot to travel over that strip. The solution would be to grant the owner an easement to travel over the Bayou property, the Bayou driveway to get to their lot.
So you're not saying build the road through, you're just saying give an easement to use that for access?
That's all she's asking for, yeah.
What do the Bayous say?
I have not spoken directly to a member of the Bayou family, but I think there's
But I
somebody
think
here.
there's one here.
There's somebody
Yeah.
here, I think, to speak on their behalf. But before that, let me just go through a couple other things.
Jeff, is she able to access that from her?
Well, I'll show you just a second
Okay.
here. So this is just the documentation to show you that it was in fact accepted by the town. It's back in 2003. And that's the resolve that has the condition about the public way or public easement. And that's the actual deed. I won't bother to go through that. This is a little bit more detail about the strip that was conveyed to the town. The lot here where it says Annabelle Robbins is now the lot that we're talking about, owned by Linda Greer. And this is where the Bayou's house is here. And this is just a Google Earth image to show you. Here's Forest Hill. Here's the driveway. And here's Mrs. Greer.
I'm sorry.
And the Bayou house is here, and then the Greer property is right over here. This is a photo looking up Forest Hill to the Bayou driveway. And I want to point out that the land drops quite a bit right there. And I'll point that out because in just a second I'll show you another photo, which is the concern that was brought to me about accessing the Greer lot from the Spruce Street end, which it fronts on that. The concern was that it has a tremendous drop on that end here. Whoops, that's just let me go back. That's not what I wanted to show you. So this is looking down the end of Spruce Street from the end of the pavement. And that's about 8 feet of fill that abruptly comes to an end. And it's a pretty sharp drop there. And that's the narrowest portion of the Greer's lot. So to build a driveway there would require a tremendous amount of fill, and it might be challenging to get a turn before you cross the property line. And plus, it's a much longer driveway to get to the building site. So she would rather not have to access it from that end, but instead access it from this end, where this is the building site right here. So she's here tonight to ask the committee to consider her request to grant an easement to allow her to travel over the strip of land.
Where does the pavement end on the upper road?
Right at the end of the shaded area here, there's a turnaround. On Woodland Heights you're talking about? Yeah, right there.
So there's that semi, or what I've always thought of as a turnaround that's just below the Bayou property.
You can see it better, I think, on,
Yep.
on this one here. Well, it doesn't show the
We're
turnaround,
talking-
but that's what the turnaround's right
Yeah.
there.
That's just off to the left and then
Can you go
up
back
past
to the
it, okay.
photo?
And maybe Mr. Bayou could answer this, but who's got the easement for the power pole and who paved the driveway?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's the turnaround there.
And she wants to enter her property here?
No, you're looking at the other way. That's, oh, no, excuse me, you're right, I'm sorry. This is Forest Hill,
Okay, she wants, and this is the power line?
Yep.
right here.
Yes.
This is the power line. right
This is the power line?
here.
So she wants to enter it actually?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the grade kind of levels out up here, so it's not quite as much as the drop is down through here, so,
How far up does her property line go that way?
don't know.
Because this is the end of the pavement up there, right?
Yes, yes, right
Up on
Woodland Heights.
Woodland Heights.
Yeah.
I don't know why I can't remember that, my in-laws live there, so. All right. But her property doesn't reach Woodland Heights?
No, you can see looking at this, this is her northernmost line right here, so it's quite a ways to the
Okay.
turnaround. So that's another option. You can grant an easement from Woodland Heights to have her build a driveway down to access your lot.
So if she were to come this way in his driveway, this is your lot, sir? 107?
Yeah.
So your lot, that driveway goes what, probably to the middle, I'm guessing?
Probably about, yeah.
But in doing that, Jeff, would we then create a through street? If we let her in from that, if they come in from that side, you'd create a through street, wouldn't you?
Well, you wouldn't necessarily have to have the two driveways connected. Probably wouldn't be connected.
No, because it wouldn't be a road, really.
And the public couldn't travel through there. Now, one thing to point out here, these smaller lots here, the numbers on them, those are the original Buck Estate lots.
Right.
They are shown as dotted lines because the owner of that property combined them into one lot for tax purposes, but
Yep.
they're still subdivision lots.
Right.
So it's possible that these lots could be broken off and developed individually.
Well, are those, oh, okay, yeah.
This one would have to travel over that strip to get to it. Not this one necessarily, but this one would.
Right.
If somebody someday wanted to build a house there.
And
They wouldn't need an easement though, because that's a subdivision lot.
Right.
There's a private easement already for that.
and
Is
where
someone in
sewer-
108?
Yes, that's the Holmes property.
Okay.
And 107's homes as well, right?
No, this is
That's me.
the.
Oh, Vegas,
Vegas.
sorry.
So the road actually goes down to 108,
Stops right here.
stops right there, all right. How many,
But if we were to let them in on that side, would it have to be a full road, or if we're going to allow it for the other subdivision lots, would we have to create a full road?
Well, that's a question you'd want to ask certainly is, do
I
you
think
just,
you'd have to, because the town maintains Woodland Heights. So you'd have to build that'd have to be built to grade.
if you granted an easement just to access her lot, then I think it would be up to her to decide what to build for driveway. It would be gravel or paved or how wide it is. It won't be a road. It's a gravel driveway.
Okay.
Would she have to put sewer in there, too?
Well, sewer's already there. Sewer and water run by that property already.
It was put in?
You see the lines right there.
Okay.
The sewer and the water is right there, but
Yeah.
that end is wider, that's why we want to access it from there, everything is right there.
I can step away if you want to let them speak. too.
Sure, absolutely. Yep.
So we want to access it from that and right there, I guess right there, because it narrows, it goes like that, so that coming from that way, it's narrow like this. So it's wider up here, the sewer and the water line, everything is right there. That's why we want to access it from that end. Coming from Woodland Heights is kind of long, you know, when the other end's right there. We can't access it from on Spruce Street because it drop down. So that's why we're asking for the easement coming from that way.
Okay. Jeff, are there any, so what would be the downside to granting this easement that you can identify?
From Forest Hill?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you'd be allowing Ms. Greer to travel over a driveway that was installed by a private lot owner at his expense. I would think that if you did want to allow an easement in that area, you would expect to have some sort of agreement between the two owners. If they're sharing the driveway, they might share costs of maintaining it. I don't believe, I spoke to two attorneys, the attorney from MMA and our own town's attorney, and they both agreed that the Greers do not have an automatic right to travel over that land, but neither does the owner of the driveway have an exclusive right to it, because it's on town property. Right. And anybody who wants to access their lots from the southerly direction has, I believe, the right to use that driveway to get to their lots.
Because hypothetically, to your point that you made earlier, somebody purchases lot 42, goes to it's already subdivided, despite the fact that you mentioned it's one lot for tax purposes at present. But somebody purchases 42, then they have the right to have access to that.
From either direction,
From
yeah.
either direction. Okay.
So like 108, which house was there first? 108 or 107?
I believe the Vayus built first.
Okay, so when 108 built, they didn't have to come from Woodland Heights. They could have actually came up through Forest.
Well, the
And just
developer would have had to
extended?
built it. Wouldn't the developer have had to have built that road?
Yeah, the developer built the road that's there now to the turnarounds.
Right, to the turnarounds, which is almost, a quarter of the way through lot 108.
Yeah.
But he could have came up from Forest through Mr. Vayu's driveway and kept going into his lot.
I think at the time,
If that makes sense, because Mr. Vayu's probably here, he could have just extended it and used that main part.
yeah, there were two main subdivisions of the Buck Estates development, and then there was the Forest Hill, had a different name, but it's Broadway subdivision, I think it was. They were two separate subdivisions.
Yep.
So there was never an original idea of connecting those roads until the developer came to the planning board with a proposal to add more lots and connected the two roads together. So I'm thinking that probably when the Vayu house was built, there wasn't, although I can't say for sure, I have to look at the record now, I can't remember what the sequence of events were, but I believe, yeah, now that I think about it, I think that was already a subdivision proposal to connect those two together when the Vayu house was built.
And
Yeah.
if she came in from the top, we'd have to pave the road, right?
No.
No,
So you'd be granting her an easement
similar to
use that strip of land to build a driveway on.
Okay. That'd be a lot of driveway on that side too. I mean, you'd be 200 feet anyway.
Obviously, the most economical approach is to use the existing driveway to get to her lot.
The Vayus have any comment? Do you guys have comment?
Well, I think, I really don't know a lot about this issue, it just came to my attention a couple of days ago, and I haven't really looked into it, but I think it would drop the property value if my dad's driveway were to be used for that other lot. The one thing, we'd lose some of our parking spaces. We have there's a parking area at the top of the driveway, room enough for 2 cars, and there's nothing, I can't show you anything.
Well, can we bring up the picture, the overview of their property? Is that what, so that,
Yes,
okay.
there's room to park 2 cars here.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where you would leave off this driveway to get into, the lot is right here, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And do you see why that would disturb us to lose those parking areas?
No, I understand what you're saying. Yep.
I'll ask the difficult question, though. Isn't that a risk that you've been running since installing that driveway? Or since your parent?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wasn't
I
part
mean,
of
that's,
the deal, so I don't
yeah.
know.
I mean,
So who lives in the house?
My dad.
Okay. Is your dad's, is your dad
Lionel
here?
Bayou was my
Okay,
dad,
yeah.
and this is my brother Ron.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I'm Henry Bayou.
No, okay. Perfect.
So that would be our concern. For one thing, we wouldn't want the traffic coming up.
Well, that's, I don't, and this is my opinion, I don't think we're talking about building a road
Mm-mm.
all the way through. Because I agree, I don't think that would be a great thing.
And if we're gonna have a road that close to the schools, they should have a sidewalk on them,
Right.
through traffic.
So I mean, Chief, I think that having a road there would be not good, personally. That's my opinion. I mean,
that's all valid, but I think the point has to be made that a through road could be built
I
at
don't-
any time.
Could it, Jeff?
That would be a decision of the town council. Yeah.
Okay.
right, because the
So at least
the agreement before was
It wasn't gonna
that
be.
the town wasn't going to build one,
Right.
and but the developer could build one.
But we
Am
don't
I
have
right in
that.
saying
The
that?
developer,
We don't have a developer in place to.
But now the developer isn't, he's not in business anymore, so if a through road was gonna go through, it would be the town.
That's the only way it's gonna happen.
That's the only way it would happen. But it could, you're right, Paul.
there's the risk there
Yes.
that we could find out that somebody purchased lot 42. They would have an automatic right to have that easement, and we wouldn't even really be having a conversation here. I mean, I'm just going by, what I've been told and what apparently the legal opinion is. The legal opinion is that, while there isn't an exclusive right on the property owner of the lot that isn't developed, they don't have an exclusive right to build a driveway there. Neither do the Bayous have an exclusive right to maintain the driveway as it is.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, that's,
So that's interesting.
yeah.
Is there an alternative route to get to that lot? Can they come up the power line or something like that? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't-
There's no.
Woodland Heights is the other way.
Yeah, I mean, Woodland Heights and,
Well, in Spruce Street, but it's a challenge.
yeah, Spruce Street would be a challenge. Really, Woodland Heights would be too. I was trying to think if Woodland Heights would be, doable. I mean, really, the thing that would save the whole headache is us building a throughway, which I don't agree with, but that's just my opinion. There hasn't been a throughway there for as long as any of us have been here.
Right,
So
and it's been talked about since we were in school.
Right. I
Um,
mean,
Can I say something?
go ahead.
absolutely.
I wouldn't have to build, another road or whatever, because I can just access it from right there. Just like that.
Prior to the driveway that's in existence,
That's there now.
or where the parking portion
Yeah.
of the driveway is. Okay.
Is that can you point to where you're thinking about accessing it?
Like, right there.
Right at the top of the driveway, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I won't have to, you won't have to go in here, 'cause Woodland is not so good, but just like that, you don't have to tear down nothing or page anything or anything like that.
Does the sewer line go all the way through?
Yeah, sewer and water, both do.
Okay.
Jeff, I'm reading the opinion from MMA, and I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. Because it says, in any case, I do not believe in a butter who is illegal, and then in quotation marks, stranger, to the subdivision would have any legal right to access, use, or improve any part of Woodland Street extension as shown on the approved and recorded subdivision plan. It is also unclear to me whether or how the town of Bucksport could permit such an abutter to do so, inasmuch as Woodland Street extension is specifically not a public way or public easement. That's fairly clear language that A, Mrs. Spear should not assume any right to this. But again, we're back to the other point as well. I'm just making sure that we're on the same page there. I mean, it's pretty clear that, but then again, a property owner should have access to their property as well.
Is all of that considered woodland? Just forest end at the power line?
Yes.
So in another hypothetical, and I'm sorry to keep asking these questions, I just want to make sure I have all my facts straight. In another hypothetical situation, that road is extended tomorrow. At the power line is where Woodland Heights ceases and Forest Hill begins as you continue down towards Broadway.
Right,
Just in terms of this legal language that I'm referencing.
Where Forest Hill ends is right at the top of the turnaround, right there.
Okay, yep.
And right now, Woodland Heights ends right here. So this is an unnamed section of town-owned land right now between the two turnarounds.
Jeff, what's the distance
Between what?
between pavement to pavement? The unpaved, and don't count the driveways being paved.
Yeah,
I'm talking Forest Hills to.
Oh, you can probably see it on that
I
subdivision
think
map.
it's around 400 feet, a little over 400 feet. The total amount of land area there is about just under 21,000 square feet. It's 50 feet wide, a little over 400 feet long.
If you improve it, can you make it a non-throughway? I'm just asking.
Improve it.
So if you build it, if we connected Woodland to Forest Ave, can you make it a non-throughway?
I don't believe so. I think it would constitute a public way at that point. If you attach those two public ways, I think it becomes one public way. It's my own opinion.
Right.
Okay.
Because the public would have true access.
Sure they do, yeah.
I think if the town was going to do that, they would do it for the intent of making it a through street in a public way from one end to the other. Otherwise, why would you do that?
It was just a question.
Yeah. It just seems to me, and this is just my opinion based on what's been presented to me, that there are a number of directions we could go here. Adding on the Spruce Street side doesn't seem to make sense for a number of reasons, including the additional responsibility to the town, the abutting landowners in terms of, and then just in terms of the fill that would have to be brought in, and then the dimensions of this property itself. Coming down from Woodland Heights, and I don't mean to speak for the Bayous, but I would just simply say that I've known people that live on both ends on Woodland Heights and Forest Hills, and I know there's concern about that becoming a throughway, and I think coming down from Woodland Heights to grant access to this piece of property, you're in effect, as Chief Gagan said, and I don't mean to put him on the spot, but just to say, you're creating a throughway at that point, or you're damn close, and you're just it's almost done, if not effectively done. It seems to me that the most common sense thing to do is to grant this easement coming up from Forest Hill, and that in the terms of the easement, there are some conditions set forth between the Bayous and Mrs. Spear in terms of, that are in legal writing, in terms of how this easement is going to be conducted and how they're gonna own the road, so to
You
speak.
mean like a maintenance agreement?
A maintenance, whatever, my knowledge is very limited on that.
I don't know if we, and that's something that we can't,
I don't know that we
as
can,
a town, we can't, I mean,
we can't force that issue, really.
I don't think we can, you know, like, that would be like a covenants,
Mhm.
which do you enforce covenants?
No, they're within the subdivision.
Right, they're within a subdivision, you know, so, the only reason I know about them is because I live in one. But, part of me looks at if you grant her an easement to come down from Woodland Heights with a driveway, I don't think, if you're granting her, the town's not building it,
Right.
you're not creating a throughway. She's building a driveway, just like he built a driveway. He could have built that driveway all the way to, or furthermore, lot 108, or you're 108, right?
107.
Okay.
107.
So,
107.
right, they want 108 could have they could have came up through Forest Hills because they're part of the subdivision. They could have went straight up the Bayou's driveway and into their lot. Okay? And been not created a throughway, even though Woodland Heights ends at their property. They could have done it. They chose not to because the hard pan was right to the corner of their property, so they didn't have to. But they very well could have if they wanted to have the lower access to their property. You grant her one from Woodland Heights, she's building a driveway all the way down to her property. That's what she's doing. I don't think that is cost efficient because I think the easiest way for it to be done is through that driveway. I hate, but we could do it. So there's a couple ways you could do it, and it not create a throughway, because we don't want to create a throughway. And furthermore, lots 42 and 43, they could come right up the Bayou's driveway and actually have a legal standing to it because they're part of the subdivision.
But then
Am I
again,
correct in saying that?
I agree with that.
That lots 42 and 43 have a legal standing to that.
and I know we're hitting this issue back and forth. But the other opinion, actually the opinion that's stated in this letter from the MMA, the senior staff attorney, is that, in my opinion, it is the abutter's burden either to demonstrate by way of a private attorney's convincing opinion that she has a legal right to access Woodland Street Extension. The question here that we need to consider isn't one perhaps of convenience. It's whether are we putting the town in a position where if she does not have a legal right to abut this to build a driveway, and we allow it to happen, that's trouble.